As has been so commonplace in the book of Psalms, we see again in Psalm 64 the complaint of Christ against his enemies, the self-righteous, which really were the generation of the Pharisees. Again, Psalm seems to be speaking directly to that generation upon whom all the blood from righteous Abel to Zechariah would be required. And so there's a great emphasis on that generation in the book of Psalms, and here in particular again, Psalm 64. Hear my voice, O God. Again, this is Christ crying out to the Father. Hear my voice, O God, in my complaint. Preserve my life from dread of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of evildoers, from the tumult of those who do iniquity, who have sharpened their tongue like a sword. They aimed bitter speech as their arrow to shoot from concealment at the blameless. So Christ was blameless, and of course they attacked him with their words, false accusations. Well, so now, as those who are in Christ, we oftentimes receive these same accusations. But because we are in the blameless one, we are considered blameless. In fact, Colossians says that we are holy and without blame and without rebuke or reproof. So if we're in Christ, then again, all these words are true for us. They hold fast to themselves an evil purpose. They talk of laying snares secretly. And how many times have we already seen that the Pharisees lay traps, verbal traps, accusatory traps, to catch God's people in some sort of fault? And while it's not just Pharisees, we see it from all sides. This particular psalm and so many of the psalms are directed to the Pharisees. But Pharisees, a type of Pharisees exists in every generation to accuse those who are blameless in Christ. They're not blameless in and of themselves in their thoughts or their actions, but because they're clothed with the righteousness of Christ, they are blameless, and so no one can bring a charge against them. They devise injustices. They talk of laying snares secretly. They say, who can see them? They devise injustices, saying, we are ready with a well-conceived plot for the inward thought of the heart of man. Inward thought and the heart of man are deep. But God will shoot at them with an arrow. In other words, with the very arrows they are using to shoot God's people, God will shoot at them with that arrow. Whatever standard you use to judge another, you will be judged by that same standard. God will shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly they will be wounded, so they will make him stumble. Their own tongue is against them. And we see this in Romans. If you judge someone, you judge yourself, for you who judge do the same things. They live by the sword, they die by the sword. So their own tongue is against them. All who see them will shake the head. Then all men will fear and will declare the work of God and will consider what he has done. In other words, it's not based upon our works. It's the work of God, both to save and to judge. The righteous man will be glad in the Lord and will take refuge in him, and all the upright in heart will glory. And so true. We are glad in him. There's no gladness outside of Christ. There's a temporal gladness. But there is an immortal, everlasting gladness, everlasting joy when we're in Christ through his finished work on the cross and resurrection and clothing us with righteousness divine.